Hey everybody, I wanted to take some time and put together kind of a little bit of or just kind of discuss a little bit about the Kessler Cineshooter. They are just now releasing a new version of it, which is the Cineshooter Plus. This isn't really a groundbreaking changing system, but it is some nice iteration on it to keep it fresh and keep it new, and I appreciate that they do this. And what I got here is one of those units, and you can look right here. It says Cineshooter Plus, so that's how you know you have the Plus version. And on the bottom, mine says macro, so you know it's geared for the macro. But what's different with this? Well, a couple things. So one thing you have is a nice OLED screen, which is going to look a lot easier to read in the daylight. And then another thing, which is a bit more exciting, is the new helical gearboxes that they're using. These things prove to be have almost, like, I cannot feel any appreciable backlash on this system, and it also runs a lot quieter now, and it's apparently more accurate too. I haven't really had a chance to really take it down and test it out really hard, but I kind of wanted to just take some time and kind of discuss this system and other systems. I'm not going to pick on anybody in specific, but basically I have used almost every motion control company out there at some point. Either I own it, or I did own it, or I've used it quite a bit in other work. I've pretty much had my hands on about all of these things. And I tell you what, the competition is tough. A lot of these systems are really good. So what I wanted to do was kind of take some time and go over what I look for when I'm looking at motion control and what's important to me. But I kind of want to go over some things that I just think are important. So one of the big things for me is mechanical stability and precision of movement. And this is a big one for me. When I first started doing time lapse, and that was probably 10, 11, maybe 12 years ago at this point, there weren't a lot of good offerings, but what everybody seemed to want to do is to have something that was going to be pretty lightweight that they could hike up into the mountains, right? So if you're going to be taking something where you're going to be doing like an expedition out into the mountains, you're going to be gone for like 3 weeks filming and carrying all this stuff around, it's probably better to get something that's going to be a little bit more lightweight and something more flexible. However, if you're doing work kind of like what I'm doing, you want something that is going to be extremely stable, very heavy duty, and very well built. The next thing is going to be, what is it like to set it up? How big of a pain in the ass is it to put this thing together? One thing I like to see is the use of things like Ethernet cables. I'm not a big fan of proprietary cable connections. You might have 5 cables and you might need all 5 of them. If one of them gets messed up or damaged, you're waiting for something to be delivered. And then there's price and affordability. You got to be able to afford it for sure. Depends on the cost of what it is. I mean, we all have our own budgets and everything, but you need to keep that in mind when you're looking for a motion control system. What's going to fit your budget and give you the most performance for the money? And of course, for me, will it do time lapse? I love doing time lapse, but I also really do enjoy real-time video. If I have something that can smoothly, accurately do real-time, that's a real benefit to have as well. Let's talk about firmware stability too. A lot of times, like, some people will go out and all they're really going to do is they're going to go set up in the city, or they're going to go set up at night, get it running. They're going to run it for maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours tops. And in that case, most systems are going to do just fine. But I have run into some systems that have a lot of problems running for extended periods. Considering most of my shoots run as long as they do, I need something that is incredibly stable firmware wise. It's not going to hang up, it's not going to disconnect. It's really good to have one. It's going to work reliably for an extended period of time. And then let's talk about controlling the system. What kind of a control ecosystem does it have? Does it have something that's a standalone controller? I'm a big fan of that. There's really nothing to worry about with those. They work pretty good. Or do I have to use my cell phone? Can I use it on Android? Can I use it on iOS? Does it need to stay connected? Can you set it up and run it and then disconnect and just let it go? These are also really important things to know. And then what about power? If you're going to be going out to the mountains, going out to the remote locations, or just even where doing cityscapes or something, you're going to need something that's going to be portable and that's going to run off of batteries. There are some systems out there with built-in batteries that are inside each unit, which I think is an absolute flaw, because if you get out there and one of those units to it didn't charge properly, or something happened, and then that part die out and then screw everything up. For me, an external battery pack is incredibly important. It needs to be able to be remotely powered, but also it needs to have the ability to tie into AC. Whether that's just a 12-volt power supply or whatever it is, I need to be able to have that constant connection. And then a huge one for me, especially doing studio work, is can it work with Dragon Frame? For me, that is just absolutely critical. That's not something that everybody needs. If you're going to be going out doing some sunset work somewhere or day to night transitions or any of those kind of things, you're probably not going to want to lug a computer out in order to program all that in. So if you are planning on doing any kind of studio work or stop motion animation or anything like that, that's definitely important. And then the next biggest one for me, and this is one that I just cannot say enough about, does it work with Unreal Engine? And that to me is a massive, massive thing now. I first started working on Unreal Engine with the Axibo. That system integrates really well. Then I learned how to integrate all of my Dragon Frame rigs directly in with Unreal. And then now we got several other manufacturers that are also supporting Unreal integration. Kessler, I just recently worked with them on their Unreal integration, and there were certain things in there that I really wanted to see in there that nobody else was doing. And hopefully these are going to be tools that everybody's going to be able to use. But yes, I don't know if that software is available to download right now. I think it's being released with the Cineshooter Plus, but I could be wrong on that. But there is Unreal integration coming through, and it works incredibly well, and it is very stable, and that is a huge thing for me. So these are all various things that you need to kind of look at and consider when you're looking at buying a motion control system of what is going to be the right decision for you. Now, I'm not going to go through and address all these things with all the other systems out there, but I am going to address those things with the Cineshooter. And I'm going to kind of go over that. So first off, when it comes to mechanical stability, this thing is solid. It's not overly heavy. It's right around the same weight as other systems in this class, but I feel no appreciable backlash on these new helical gear motors. They are absolutely fantastic. And when it just comes to the mechanical stability, you can throw a really nice heavy payload on here. You don't have to stick it with just mirrorless cameras or small DSLRs. You can throw a full red on there. I often have my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema cameras on here, and they'll be fully caged out, and they'll have their little display and all that kind of stuff. And it's not even a consideration for this thing. So this is absolutely more than enough to handle really anything that you're going to be putting on it. As for the price and affordability, this system is north of $3,000 if I remember correctly. It's something where it's a little chunk of money, but what you get from it is a very, very competent and capable machine. So I do find a good value in this. I've seen other systems that cost less that I feel are every bit as good of a value as this, but they might not have quite the structural strength or all the integration and everything that this one is capable of. Expandability. So this is something I struggled with for a little while with Kessler, because they didn't have just a motor that you could go purchase and buy. It turns out if you actually reach out to them and you have an interesting project you're working on, they're happy to help work with you and help sort something out if you need to get a motor for something. But they did release the power blocks. I've got 2 of those units. It's basically just a really nice, strong, powerful motor just wrapped in a bunch of cheese plates, and it has got infinite capabilities of how you're going to mount it and what you're going to do with it. The 2 that I use are currently running Sarah, which is my large gantry rig with my other Cineshooter that I have that I'm doing all my virtual production work on. As for time-lapse, stop motion, and all that, yep, check. This does everything that you're going to expect out of a 4-axis kit, but this is actually a 5. It's got 2 on here that you can use, one for the focus motor, one for auxiliary, or zoom and slide. So it does have and this can also connect up with the Cineshooter Pro, and you can get 3 more motors attached to create an 8-axis system. And I've actually once again got that going with Sarah. I am using 8 axis of Kessler power to run that thing right now. Now let's talk about software stability. I've got one of these. Well, I was working with Kessler to help them with their Unreal integration. I was using one of their Cineshooter heads on just one of the dollies that they have, just in front of this little TV. And I go in, I get the new firmware, I play around with it, see if I can find any bugs, find something, get back with the guys over with Kessler. And during that process, there would be times where this thing would just be sitting there for a full week, maybe 2 weeks, just kind of bouncing back and forth on a script that I built on Chaos. But absolutely, it just runs and runs. Sarah, my virtual production robot, the Cineshooter on it has been on and powered on and connected up and stable probably close to like 5 or 6 months at this point. And the stability is absolutely rock solid with this system. Now, with the control ecosystem on this, there's actually some really interesting possibilities that you have here. So first off, you have your Cineshooter app that you have on your iPhone, on your Android, and all that. But you also have the option of using Chaos. Now, Chaos is a far more advanced motion control setup than what you're going to be using on your phone. But I actually just run it directly off PC. Super stable, super easy to use. I wish it did have a dedicated handheld controller that went with it. However, this thing does have the ability to pair directly with a PlayStation controller, no dongle needed or anything like that. So you can get an Xbox or PlayStation controller and connect it directly to the system. It does natively support game controllers, so that is also really nice. As for powering, it's a very standard setup. You got a 12-volt input right here, DC barrel jack connection, 2.1 barrel jack connection. It is the standard that everybody uses. Also, you can use one of their mag packs on it. You can also get a V-mount plate for this. So you can put like a big old gold V or a V-mount battery. Now, when it comes to compatibility with third-party systems, it dragon frames. That to me is so important. It allows me to tether to the camera and run these long extended shoots where I can review the footage. I don't have to pull the memory card out or anything like that. In fact, there's usually not even a memory card in the camera. But more importantly, and any company out there who is not doing Unreal integration with your stuff, you're messing up. This is such a powerful tool. People saw it on The Mandalorian. They see it on these any big blockbuster movie that's coming out. We've all seen those cinema or those LED stages. There's no reason not to be able to do that in your own house. Unreal itself is free unless you're making over $1 million a year off of it. You can just use it. You're able to switch through backdrops and environments at such a rapid pace that I was never able to before. That is something that is really important. In fact, recently I've got a new system that I put out. It's a macro control positioning system, and I needed to get some glamour shots of it in action, and I was able to rapidly move it from one location to another, all on the same set, being filmed by Sarah, which is my Kessler-driven virtual production robot. Yeah, so I mean, it's such an enormously powerful tool. The flexibility to connect it with Unreal is absolutely important, and that's one of the things that they have absolutely killed with this, is the way that they interact with Unreal. So I've been using these systems for well over a year now, I think. And I gotta say that they knocked it out of the park. The company has completely won me over. Anytime there's something I need to do, if I can use the Cineshooter for it, I'm going to go ahead and do that. All the Kessler equipment is just absolute bulletproof. I mean, it's solid, it's rugged. You know that it's not going to break. This really is an excellent system. I highly recommend it. But like I said, there's a lot of different things you need to take in consideration as far as what's going to be the right system for you to use. But I do recommend this one. Anyway, thank you guys. I hope you have a great day. And if you like this, like, subscribe, smash that subscribe button, pound that like, the thumb, and all the other YouTuber bullshit. So anyway, take it easy.